What is going on, wrestling fans? It's Ice. Oh, welcome back to 10 Count Media. On today's edition, a special day, we're talking to WWE Karrion Kross about his new book. How you doing today?
Yes, hello. Very exciting, very scary, very scary for me for the book to be around the corner for the world to read. But the test readers and a few other people who have gotten the book early have been have really enjoyed it. So that makes me happy.
That's great
Well,
to hear. So you're nervous about your book coming out?
oh yeah, there's a lot of crazy shit in it. I mean,
Sure. Yes, but still, people enjoy you on television. Do you think they'll enjoy the real version of you versus the one they always see on television as well?
I hope so. It's hard to say because I have the child in me that once sat in the audience at a pro wrestling show. I still have that gauge of being able to remove myself from what I am watching and what I'm doing and being like, would I enjoy what I'm watching at 6 years old? Would I enjoy watching what I'm doing at 12 or 15 or 16 or 20 or 30? That's There's no ego in me that prevents me from doing that. I know when something is going to land with the audience and I know when something's not. Um, and it's a different feeling when you're like, I wonder how the world's going to like me. Like I can't, I don't know. I might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I'll tell you right now, I wrote this book as honestly as I was legally allowed to write it. So, they're gonna get a real person in the book. So
There were some names missing from it in the Life is Fighting book. When I read it about 1.5 days, I read the whole thing. I got 3 kids who were trying to pull me away. I'm like, no, I want to read this. And I remember getting to some parts. It's like, who is this? Why are there no names?
yeah.
And I understand why, because some of the stories are heavy. They're full of probably some blackmail by accident. So we wouldn't want to do that to somebody there. But Life is Fighting, though. Why the title, though? Why this title?
I heard that quote a long time ago from Henzo Gracie, and I just thought it was very appropriate. It very much is, the art of fighting itself, the way we think of it, is glorified through professional sports as it should be. I think it's awesome. Mixed martial arts, boxing, any sort of sports combat. But I think that there's a definition of fighting and being a fighter that's kind of lost on people. And life very much is a fight. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I'll speak personally, as I've gotten older and I've gone through more things, not everything in life is just as easy as getting up out of bed, putting your feet on the floor, walking out the door, and just breezing through life, and everything is easy and just falls into your lap. Like those days, I mean, if you were, as a kid, you were lucky to have those days. You know what I mean? Not everyone has a Brady Bunch existence as a kid, but if you had those days when you were a kid, they don't last very long. The older you get, the harder things get, and you have to learn how to adapt to your environments and actually being able to figure out who you are in life, learning how to maintain that, not compromise it while in pursuit of what it is that you want. Because somebody usually always has what you want, whether it's a dream job or a dream project, or maybe you want to be an entrepreneur, maybe you want to be a writer, you're going to need a publisher. Like people that have things that other people want in order to feel fulfilled, you're lucky if they're not bend you and see how flexible you are and see who you really are in order to see if you're willing to change to get what you want. And that's a big part of life, man. I'm not even speaking about the entertainment industry. I mean, I was a 9 to 5 kid. I always had 2 or 3 jobs growing up, and
Mhm.
even just the most basic jobs. You could be on a work site, you could be blue collar, you could be a stonemason, and the guy you work for, you know, uh, knows that he writes your check, and he could treat you like a dog.
Mhm.
And how are you going to react to that? Are you going to walk over to him and slap him so hard that his eyes cross, he falls backwards off the roof? Or can you find a way to compose yourself and get through the day and perhaps look for another job where you're not working for someone who's, verbally abusive? It spider webs out in a lot of different ways. I know that was a very long answer, but it's the honest answer. I mean,
I'm not.
everything
Yes,
in life is a fight, man. It is.
trust me. I'm not. If I asked you what time it was, I don't want you to tell me what time it is. I want you to tell me how to make a clock. So, oh, you disappeared for a minute, sir. There you are. Did you hit your phone?
Somebody was calling me. My apologies.
No, no, no.
No. I hung up on him for you.
Good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. There's one quote in your book you did right. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Now, for that quote to you, what does that mean? Because as you're talking about life is fighting, well, not everyone is a good person in this world. Everyone's trying to push you down a little bit so they can stay on top. What does that quote though mean to you personally?
Well, every era, every generation of people has its qualms, its issues, its challenges. Um, I feel like the era that you and I are living in, if you don't mind me grouping you into this, like
Group
just
me in.
you're in. It's not necessarily age specific, but it's a broad spectrum of people that are all living together in this era right now. I feel like instant gratification is sort of a big challenge that people need to learn how to identify and overcome. And I feel like a lot of that happens through social media. And I'm not demonizing social media. Social media is the reason why I think I have been able to acquire a lot of what I have now through the entertainment industry. But people feeling like they need to project something that will provide them with the idea of a reward that's not real. The projection is not real. The reward is not real, and they're trapped on this loop of like oh, when I can get the spotlight and put it on me, this is my time where I have to be a good person. No, that's totally wrong. You don't need to wait until someone's paying attention to you to be a good person. You start putting that into practice every day when no one's watching, and it's not about the reward. It's about literally being the change that you wish or you should wish you could see in the world. Live it, be it. Be the way you would want other people to be, you know? And I think a lot of people are always worried about somebody else getting one up over on them, or they're not going to get what they want out of life being that way. They're going to get walked all over. It doesn't necessarily have to equate to any of that. Being a good person doesn't necessarily mean being a doormat, but you got to figure out what being a good person is to you, what that really means, and start living that way.
I love it. That's actually a really great way to put it because yeah, being a good person doesn't mean being stepped on. Being a good person is your vision of what's a good person versus being abused constantly by individuals in this world, especially social media. I love social media, but same thing there. And I understand it. But your book, usually sometimes books come out when someone's career is over or they're older or something has happened in their life. Why for you personally now was the right choice to write a book? And mentally, how are you feeling while writing this book?
Well, I actually finished the book right before I came back to WWE, and the book has actually been ready to be published and distributed since then.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
there's been a very, very strange process that's been taking place for the last couple of years to get this book to you guys. I haven't been a fan of it, but we're here. I'll keep it positive. And I wrote the book because I felt encouraged by many people for like the past 10 or 20 years that have known me personally, and people who just got to know me even recently back then. They were saying that I really should. Um, and the place that I was in when I wrote it, I was all over the place. I had been released from my dream job. Um, couldn't quite talk about everything that had happened leading up to that, and even still choose not to. Just weird, suppressed things that I was working through. A lot of things that I had grown up with that I actually did work through that I was ready to share with people for the purpose of helping them identify maybe you're like this too. This is how I got around it and through it. But I felt like I was writing the book naked. And I spoke to other authors and they said, that's a good thing. And I was like, it doesn't feel very good. It feels pretty terrifying. And they were like, no, like there's a connection that people begin to make with one another through, if you believe in this sort of thing, vibes. People say vibes, vibrational frequencies. There is something that is, it's like it's tangible, but it's not totally tangible. It's authenticity. Everyone always talks about in my industry, oh, what markets do they relate to? I don't necessarily know that I relate to a super specific demographic or market, but I will relate to people who are authentic. I relate to the authentic market, which is all human beings. And that's where I tried to come from when I wrote this. I put the ugliest of myself in this book so people could see it. And everyone has an ugly side. It's a side they don't want to show anybody because they're not proud of it, or, you know, they could potentially be ashamed of it. No one wants to share their losses. But there's something we find out that we're really not all that different. And it's possible to get over this stuff that we feel like we're stuck in.
Man, yeah, I think you're gonna help a lot of people with your story and your struggles throughout life because, again, as the title says, life is fighting. And again, I read this book, and when you read it from your childhood on, you get some real glimpses. I'm like, wow, this happened, or oh my god, I didn't know about this, or wow, that's a hilarious story. But for your fans, for your fan base, you know, who have been with you since day one, like, is there a message in this book that you want them to take away from this?
There's a few messages, to diversify the answer, because I'm going to do this a lot. I don't want people to feel like I'm just regurgitating the same stuff through all of the media. One of the things I would like people to find and be able to take from this book is that I am a obsessively passionate person when it comes to doing something to the best of my abilities. Like, I'm really, really, really big on, for instance, commitment. I enjoy the process of being committed to something and just giving everything I have and putting that into it, whether it's a relationship with a person, whether it's a job, whether it's some sort of artistic endeavor. I enjoy the process of becoming committed and seeing what I can actually produce out of something when I give it everything I have. And it's dangerous to do because the result might not be what you were hoping it was going to be. But in a really weird way, and I don't mean for this to sound pessimistic, that's kind of life. Sometimes things are not going to be what you think they're going to be. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. There's some sort of liberation in that, actually, to find out that this thing that you've been chasing so hard and you felt like you weren't complete until you had it. Once you get it and see that it's not what you thought it was, yeah, there's some disappointment in that, but also you should be able to feel like you can let that go now. Hey, it's okay. It was not this thing that I thought it was. And that applies to everybody, man. That could be a relationship, a job, or an artistic endeavor. That can be those things. I don't want people to be afraid to find out that they actually do not want something as bad as they thought they did, or feeling like maybe it's not that situation. Maybe they achieve it and conquer it. Now what? You know, both of those scenarios I've had to deal with in my life. And at the time when I wasn't talking to anybody about it and I was isolating myself from that, I wasn't sure who I could share that with. It feels like a really low period, but there's always something on the other side of it, and I'm finding that's a consistency in life. I've had a lot of challenges to overcome, just like anybody, but I'm finding that there is something beyond all of that when you're in it. It's on the other side. You just have wear the misery of it to understand it and appreciate it and figure out what it is on the other side that you're going to get from that.
So you're talking about commitment, though. Over the past year and a half, you've seen your fans very committed to you online, supporting you, constantly seeing why isn't he more on television? Why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing that? The commitment to your character on television, the commitment you are as a person. Are you seeing the results of all your commitment finally coming through? Because I was in Providence, Rhode Island for Monday Night Raw a few weeks ago, and you had a segment in the audience. The entire crowd was chanting your name. Even when your moment was done, the light shut off, the crowd still chanted your name. They still were into you. After the event, the crowd waited for you outside to meet you. Little children, adults, moms, daughters, everyone. That commitment clearly is shown to your character as a person in life and on television. This is working out for you, I'd assume. How do you feel mentally, though, about that?
Really good, really flattered. I will remember that day in Providence for the rest of my life. I have never had a performance experience like that, ever. I've been at this 11 years now, and I've worked all over the world, virtually in almost every major country that showcases professional wrestling. I've worked there. I've never had an experience like that. I've been cheered out of the building before. I've been cheered into the building. I've had people waiting for me at airports, and I've had people waiting for me after the shows through the parking lots, but not that many people, and not up like that. And what was bewildering to me about all of that is, to me, I'm still very firmly playing the bad guy. I'm blindsiding people with weapons and asking for irrational things. Karrion Kross is asking Sammy to tell him something that Sammy doesn't feel is true, and Kross feels like it's true, and he's battering and assaulting him, and essentially trying to end his career, asking for this thing, and the audience is continuing to cheer for that.
Mm.
And I believe, if the audience doesn't mind me saying, it's because they're entertained. They clearly know I'm not a good guy. They know Cross is not a good guy, but they're being entertained. And truthfully, man, that's all I have ever wanted to do since I was a little kid. Being a kid in the audience watching this show, I always wanted to be in the ring, and I wanted to return the favor to the people who entertained me, and I wanted to entertain the people on the ground. And finally getting here, where I can really actually put my best work forward, and people can see that I've had this thing in me for a long time that they haven't been able to see yet, and they're enjoying it. There's no greater feeling professionally, and even in a lot of ways personally. I'm just so happy that they're enjoying it. It is so important to me to be here.
Well, that's great to hear. That night was very special because I was about like, I don't know, like 10 rows down, and I'm recording it and I'm like, wow, they're really into him. And then the lights went off and the crowd even got louder for you because you were still there. But there was a very passionate kiss between you and Scarlett. And that didn't seem very planned. Was that not planned? Because you just said you were feeling the moment. And then suddenly even she was like, oh, we're going for a small peck. Oh, no, we're not going for a small peck. We're going for more here.
Yeah, her and I play ribs on each other all the time. That one was just more obvious than the other ones that we've done live. But yeah, her and I have always improvisationally worked off of each other when there's not a script in front of us. Like, what you guys are watching, if you actually get the in commercial stuff or anything live, there is an element of improv with anyone live. There's improv in the ring, there's improv on the mic, and um, yeah, what you saw is what happened. I just thought, it's all for the sake of people enjoying it and entertaining people. Her and I are not big on PDA in general, and especially too, her and I being wrestling fans. Neither of us ever tuned in to watch wrestling, to watch people make out. It's kind of obnoxious, which is why we've always kind of stayed away from kissing on camera.
Hmm.
Like, get over yourselves, all right? You guys are in a relationship. Like, do it somewhere else. But in that moment, it felt different. And then I was even laughing too. Like, I was surprised that got cheered. I was surprised people cheered that, because normally people, like, if you were to see other couples in the past, Edge and Lita, no one was cheering that. You know what I mean? Like,
Nobody.
Snitsky and Kelly, no one's gonna, no one's gonna cheer. Like, no one, you know what I mean? Like, it was interesting and funny, and yes, it was very improvisational.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, again, it was a beautiful moment, that whole evening too. And again, inside your book, reading the story of you and your wife, the journey from just meeting. I don't want to give too much away because it's so interesting that the dynamic from the beginning, where it led to now, here we are on television and as a couple with her though involved. Are you taking work home often, or are you trying to leave work at the office and you're going home and you want to be a couple just watching, reality TV or listening to music? Like, are you always on thinking creatively with her?
No, and we make sure that we don't do that. It would be a blatant lie to say that we don't talk about work when we're
Of
home,
course.
but this is not. It's not something that it wouldn't even be possible for how much we have going on outside of WWE to talk about it nonstop. Like, we have relatives that we look after. We travel a lot to visit family. I'm in Toronto, Canada right now, visiting my mother as we speak. And we have a lot of other different things that we dabble with outside of work. Just always thinking about the future. One day we will no longer be able to do this. It happens to every pro wrestler, and we're just always trying to think proactively as to developing different streams of revenue and stuff like that. Like, you never know when it could be over. Not
Mhm.
not to go dark, but like, Chris Bay is a very close friend of mine, and dude, like, that really that shook all of us. Even people who never met Chris, it shook them. If you knew Chris even the way I knew Chris, this would be the last person you would ever think something like this would happen to. Chris was bulletproof. Like I was there for his first day coming into FSW, the wrestling school.
Hmm.
Like anyone, more than welcome to ask Joe DeFalco who owns the school. I looked at Joe and I said, "This kid's going to be the future of this company, and he's going to be all over TV." I said that day one. Some people walk in and you can just see it. You can see it on them. They're going to do it. They haven't even gotten in the ring yet. He carried that about him. So the fact that that happened to him, it's really changed um, for the better the way I'm observing my own life, and I'm trying to learn from things that happen to people that I care about, and just thinking bigger than I was maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
So with that coming to mind, because that happens, like, Adam Cole recently, stepping away as well. Like there's a lot of wrestlers who get hurt in life and then it's over. It's like, poof, it's done. Like, where are you thinking the next step for you personally are? Is it family? Is it more businesses? Like, what are you looking to do next, I guess, out of being a WWE superstar?
Not to be vague, but I'm I'm really open to anything that I would enjoy doing. Like at one point, I had expressed interest in seeing if anyone would have me as a producer. I think producing is really cool. I was the EP executive producer on my film Blue Evening, which is now running in the Burbank Festival, and we're going to be going to New York. And very soon we'll be dropping information about how you can watch Blue Evening in Texas. It's going to be coming to a theater in Texas. But being an executive producer and floating over the positions of editing, scoring, directing, um, everything, just shadowing people over my film to figure out what actually goes into this type of work and understanding the film festival schedule, getting into film and television on like a more serious level, away from wrestling is something I'd be interested in doing. I definitely have scripts I've been sitting on for a long time about television and film that I would be interested to sell, or maybe bring to life myself with investors. I just know that I have a creative spirit, and as long as I'm able to bring something to life for people to enjoy, that will always be a job I'll want to do, whatever that is. I'm positive about that.
That's so. I can imagine seeing your character, with all the aspects of it. It's kind of, you have not superpowers, but you have like mental superpowers on these wrestlers, turning them evil, changing your hair to be the style of those wrestlers to kind of feel that, and the nuances there. I think that's what a lot of wrestling fans notice, where you weren't wrestling in matches, but we would see you backstage, and we would see you backstage whispering in these ears. Your hairstyle was different to accommodate the wrestler you were talking to. It was very detailed. You'd have to pay attention to it. And I thought it was very enjoyable. And I really hope that continues on with your hairstyle, because I remember you had a shaved head and people got mad at you because you could grow your hair and you had a shaved head. In your book, you said people with shaved heads are scarier. And Steve Austin had a shaved head and he was pretty damn scary himself.
Right.
And he was doing rotten things too, but being cheered. Like, I think that's where your character lies now, at least personally for me. But in your book, though, I don't want to ruin so many great stories. But one of these stories is the first time you met Triple H, I believe you were wearing a luchador mask.
Yeah.
What what do you think Triple H was thinking inside when he saw you show up in a luchador mask?
I have no idea, but I popped them. So, mission accomplished. I just think, I don't know, like, sometimes people make things out to be more serious than they actually are in life, like in any aspect of life. And it was just such a high pressure situation on paper. I just thought, like, this doesn't have to be. This can be fun. This can be enjoyable. This doesn't have to be such a serious, rigid like thing. I just thought, like, I wonder what he would do if I showed up in a three-piece suit and like a blue demon mask. So I did it. So when I met him in person, I wore the mask, and he was like putting a mask together at the. It was back at the university, and he's working, right, and he just does a double take, and he just goes. Starts laughing, and I think he knew it was me immediately because it was like the 6'4" luchador walking through a place. Like, this can't be a random person. This has to be probably Cross, who he had knew was coming in, been waiting for. He went over and shook his hand, and he said something like, "I really appreciate the level you're going to protect this." And then, we exchanged some pleasantries, but that was also part of it too. I didn't want to blow my cover because non-maliciously people get excited and start talking about when a surprise is coming in. I didn't want to blow the surprise that I was going to be coming to NXT. So I felt it's a great way to be able to just be in front of anybody and put on a luchador mask and they don't know who you are. I used to do that. I used to have to do that sometimes leaving the airport in or actually leaving the airport or getting to the airport in Mexico City. I would wear a luchador mask before their TSA, not going through TSA, but sometimes there would be fans in the airport or like media or people taking pictures. I would wear a mask walking through, and you'd think it would be more obvious that it's a wrestler, but they feel less inclined to come up to you if they just absolutely cannot see who's under the mask.
That's a great
So
idea.
yeah, well, it worked for Penta, so Penta and Bright
I
used to wear somebody else's mask going through the airports. They said, "How is no one stopping you?" They're like, "They don't know who we are, couple." I go, "Okay, I'm gonna do that too."
I don't. I think now it's like they would recognize like the tattoos, or maybe just like I studied his walk, and I realized that is Karrion Kross underneath that blue demon mask. Yes, I think it is.
Lucha
Yeah,
Cross, yeah.
yeah. Lucha, we get the trademark going now. We already have El Grande Americano. We can have you in there as well, I guess. Um,
Yes. I told him I would be venti americano for him, and he said, "No, no español." I said, "You don't speak Spanish?" "Oh, no, 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 I'm here." Okay, I don't know who you are under there, sir, but
I'm enjoying that. I am enjoying that. Personally, though, with Triple H, what was your relationship like with him then in NXT versus now? Because a lot has happened since when you first showed up in NXT wearing a luchador mask for being released to coming back. And it felt like all of Triple H's people were returning after a new regime change. And we got to see you and other people return. How'd that feel to know that Triple H told you to come home?
it felt great. It felt great. How has our relationship changed? Well, I mean, he was more. He had less responsibilities and accountabilities professionally back when he was just in charge of NXT, so he was a little bit more available. He's obviously less available with how much he's accountable for now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know if it's changed that much. Just every once in a while, he does try to hit me with a sledgehammer, but I think that's normal for him. I think that's normal. He might try to swing at anybody every once in a while, but I feel like he does swing at me every once in a while, like more than other people. That's about it.
Wow, that sounds like an HR issue though for you. I think human resources really should be involved with this type of
But they
situation.
work. They work for him, dude. I mean that's going
That's
to be
true.
like who is that? Is that like Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble? No, thank you. No, thank you.
Good
We've
point.
seen
Good
we've
point.
seen what happens there, right?
With this book, did you ever send it out to like for instance, my first as a child, I'll age myself. When I was a child, I hated reading books. Hated them, was forced to read them in summertime for school and things of that nature. Then Mick Foley, as Mankind, came out with a book. And the first line in his book is, I can't believe they ripped my effing ear off. And I remember reading that. I was 12 years old and like, holy shit, what is this? I read the whole thing.
Have a
It
nice
was
day.
great. It was outstanding. Read them all. And then from there, every wrestle was like, oh, we should all do this. Make some money. Did you send your book to other authors, like professional wrestler authors, and said, like, can you read this? Can you take a look at it?
No,
No.
I didn't want any feedback because I didn't want accidental influence on the direction I was going in. I didn't want to write this like another wrestling book. I wanted to just put my mind on paper and roll the dice and see what happens.
I'm glad to hear that because again, I read it and it's so funny because you said you wrote it about 2 years ago, and then we get towards the end and there's new, I guess, content in there about your return into the WWE, and it's just when you see that when you just informed me that you wrote part of it so long ago and another part way after, like, it's interesting to think that your mind is probably a little different from you said you felt naked when you first wrote it versus when you wrote that last chapter. I'm guessing you were like, did you feel still naked when you're writing, hey, I'm coming back to the WWE, or you felt finally this is exactly what's supposed to be happening?
I was terrified. I was terrified. I was terrified of the idea that I was buying into something again, and it was not going to be what I thought it was going to be. I was so scared to be right about that, um, and I didn't want to be wrong. Um, and I am on the second book, and I am just as scared to release the second book as I was the first, maybe even more so, because so much has happened over the last 3 years that nobody knows about, and I don't think they're going to feel very good about it if it gets published the way I've written it. So, like, but I don't know. I felt this way before, and so far so good. But uh, yeah, just about the last 3 years that I've written is going to shock people, and I'm not sure I want to shock them that way. As but there are glimmers of hope in the second book, like there are in the first. I guess what happens throughout the rest of this year is going to determine how the story is going to end in the second book. Hopefully, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, like there was in the first.
Very interesting, because yes, when you did come into the company, flowers, roses, and then from there, you were on a pay-per-view for a long time, and then you were at WrestleMania, and then that didn't go the way you had planned as well, and then you fought Sami Zayn. And your fan support, though, your fan support has never ever gone away, and I think that has really shown. I think probably maybe you as well, and hopefully the WWE, that they realize like maybe we don't have all the answers and the audience is sending us the right messages. So do you think growing fan support for you is changing though how you approach your character now, or how the WWE is actually trying to approach your character?
Man, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know how the company is trying to approach my character. I am a little confused about that, and all I can tell you is uh, I am trying to be the biggest and best bad guy that I am allowed to be.
Mm,
I am. I would take things farther. I would take things way farther. I would have taken things farther. I've suggested to take things farther over the last 3 years to be the most vile character anyone has ever seen as a villain. But they have not played out that way. I'm, I'm part of a show. I'm part of a show, and I'm a character, and it's not my show, and I'm very happy to be in the show, and I'll do what everybody asks me to do. But I would have taken things so much farther. I've had ideas that will probably be in the book since they never came to fruition that I'll tell people about that would shock people. Really nasty, scary, bad guy heel stuff.
mm,
Um, and now we've landed into a situation where, if I'm not able to really get solid heat, I still got to entertain people. It's World Wrestling Entertainment. People have to be entertained. So my mind has shifted away from getting nuclear heat because haven't really been permitted to get that. I have ideas, I've submitted them. So at the very least, it's World Wrestling Entertainment. I got to entertain these people. I got to make sure that they're leaving with a smile on their face. So I'm leaning more towards making sure people are entertained while being the bad guy that I'm allowed to be. I will do much worse things than anyone has ever seen in wrestling if I am permitted to. I have a wrestling mind for this. Before Kevin Sullivan passed away, we were talking about all this type of stuff. I talked to Bray about it all the time. Um, Drew and I occasionally will talk about developing heat and things like that. But there's nothing worse, in my opinion, as a villain, if you don't have something tangible to get heat and create heat, and then you're also not entertaining them. So what are you doing? You're going out there to kind of like a dead zone. I don't want that for people. They're paying too much money to see the best show in the world, and I'll be damned if I'm going to go out there and let that fall on deaf ears. I'm going to go out there and try to entertain these people as much as I humanly possibly can, and they're going to react however they're going to react. And right now, they like watching a guy sneak up behind somebody else and hit him with a lead pipe. I don't know who's more sick, me or them. I have no idea. So
everybody, yes, everybody's a little sick. We're all enjoying it, and I think honestly, if you went off and like stole someone's baby right now as a villain, people would be like, "Well, that's pretty cool. He stole that guy. He stole those people's baby. I love him."
right. I mean, I will do the worst, most vile things if I'm allowed to be the biggest and best bad guy anyone's ever seen. But in the meantime, until I'm allowed to do that, I will make sure people are enjoying what they're watching. I will always make sure. I don't take people's time and attention for granted. That's something you absolutely cannot do as a professional wrestler. Time is precious, man. Pun intended. It's the gimmick, the time guy.
Yeah, I'm surprised TikTok hasn't tried to get a deal with you yet because, it's kind of part of what you were doing before. But a few years back, though, one of the most craziest things that in your book you wrote about it too, but also how I felt, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, you're a dominating force in NXT. You get called up. You're wearing a red helmet, suspenders." And in your book, I'm very happy you talked about it because that was one of the most confusing aspects. And a few years ago, I got to interview you about it too, and you really shared your feelings. Um, as the good soldier, as some people put you, would you have said no? The person you are now, would you have said, "I'm not doing this. Like, this is not a good idea. I can't do this." Or you just would have went with the flow and ended up exactly where you are right now?
I would have said no, and I had a misplaced sense of loyalty at the time that I feel like was taken completely advantage of. And like I told you, I'm very big on commitment. I'm very big on loyalty. The sad part is in this world, you know, some people will take advantage of that and use it against you. And to this day, I feel like that's exactly what happened. And I'm not alone with that. People I work with and people watching felt like that's exactly what happened too. And I think that we're so far past that, it's not a wild or controversial thing to say at this point,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I would very respectfully say no, and I would make an attempt to pivot and suggest other things. And I kind of did at that time, but they seemed to be at that time very just locked in on wanting to do that. And the timing of, I don't know, the timing of it all, looking back, and I wasn't able to necessarily see it as well as I do now. Very much felt like I was at the peak of Karrion Kross's success in NXT, and then they just dive bombed all of that, killed the equity, and then released me out back to the Indies, hoping that perhaps, you know, people were not going to be interested anymore, and I wasn't going to be able to recover. And then when I did, I was asked to come back. It feels that way, and it felt that way to a lot of people. So, but the beautiful part about it, and even in the book, is like I showed people you can recover from that. So any professional wrestlers or anyone in life where you feel like you've taken a tragic misstep in the way people perceive you or the way you feel about your own work, it's not over. It's absolutely not over, and you can recover. And it's not going to be easy, and it's going to suck, and you're going to be criticized. You're going to be proverbially stoned by people. You're going to be made fun of. If you can withstand all of that, and when it's all said and done, people can look at you and see you for who you actually are, then you're good and you've won. And now you can share that experience with somebody else who's going to need it one day. So, like I said, man, it's finding that silver line on the other side, like that light at the end of the tunnel, whatever it is. It's there and everything. So it might not be what you want to see at the end of the tunnel, but it's what you have to see.
You're going on a book tour though too, right? You're going to multiple locations and you'll be meeting fans or just people who are interested in the book in general. What are you looking forward to? Because you're going to see a lot of, Karrion Kross fan support, more so than ever, all in front of you, all at once. Everyone is going to explain to you what you mean to them. You don't even know what you mean to some people because you think, oh, I'm a television character. You might like me as a wrestler, might hate me. These people are going to probably pour their souls to you. And you've done sit downs, you've done interviews, things of that nature. But what are you expecting emotionally for you to hear all your fans coming at you one by one to tell you that they love you and what you mean to them?
Well, it's going to be. Um, I know it's going to be very. It's going to be an emotional experience even for me just to be hearing that. Like I'm already hearing it. I'm already getting it a lot. Not even with the book out. I saw something online 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I did respond to it. But there was a guy videotaping or like taping it on his phone that he was in his hospital room. He was in the hospital with some sort of illness. He was recovering from something, and like he had attached a description to it, saying like he's getting through what he's going through by watching my stuff on TV. I don't want to get worked up, but you see stuff like that, and it doesn't occur to you when you show up to work on Monday. You're really just trying to hit a home run for your bosses and the guy that you're working with. I've always just tried to come from a place where I want people to know, like, I really am just trying to do my best work. I'm not trying to go into business for myself. I'm not trying to get one up on anybody. I just really want to make sure that the people that I work for and work with, and the people in the audience and the people at home watching, are really enjoying thoroughly what I'm doing. They see that I'm giving a full commitment to this. Like, I'm literally giving everything I have anytime I get an opportunity to. And then to see this guy, like, who knows what the hell his perspective on life is. He's putting on what I'm doing. Feel better. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how to put that into words. So I know that with this book coming out, which with sharing, things going on in my life, and people will be able to relate or get something from it. There's going to be a lot of that in person. And I used to run from stuff like that, because I just didn't know how to process it and compose myself. But I'm going to embrace it, and I'm looking forward to it. And just man, airports, restaurants, going to the gym, gas station, you name it. I have people running up to me. I'm with friends, with family, more now than ever, talking about how they feel about what I'm doing. I feel like we're on. I feel like we're on the right course, with developing engaging content and making a connection with the audience, and hopefully everybody at work feels that way too. I really hope. I wish they could see the things that I see. I know that that's almost impossible. They can only see a little bit of it, but I wish they could see the things that I see that are happening. I mean, they are very meaningful. Not everything is just money and a metric to me, and I know business is business, but this is the only business in the world, and I've said this before, that's not just business. It's not, and you're creating a healthy form of escapism for people, and it's just my 2 cents on it.
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of tears that this coming up book tour, because when you go online and you type in your name in, it's never like, oh, I can't wait to see his best match. They're like, he means this to me, he means that to me, he does this for me, he does that for me. And I think that's going to show everyone, the commitment they have towards you and your book, of course. But we do have SummerSlam coming up, and I'm guessing your fans want to see you on that. It's 2 nights. So for you, what would it mean to miss SummerSlam with all this momentum going up? And if you can be on SummerSlam, though, where do you want your character to be that night, both nights?
Well, I don't control any of that,
Of course.
and I never want people to feel like I'm ignoring them. The whole purpose of what we're doing is to make a connection with the crowd and the audience. So I'm trying not to egg them on. Um, I've never felt like I've had to, but if I'm not on SummerSlam, you know, tomorrow's another day. I'll figure out another way to entertain people. I don't know what to say to that. If I am on SummerSlam, I hope whatever it is that the company wants me to do is going to be something meaningful for the audience. I literally have no dream situation or scenario of something to be doing this close towards SummerSlam. I would just hope that I would have an opportunity to perform in a manner that people would enjoy, because that's the name of the game at the end of the day. Like, there are some people that need so much time and money allocated to have a relationship that I have with the audience right now, for that to develop. Like, they need a lot of time, right? I wrestled once this year on Raw and I lost. Like, if you think about it in comparison, it's about learning how to get the most out of the least. And I think for me, not being hyper featured or not being hyper showcased in comparison, comparatively to other performers, has actually been a great thing. I would have never thought that, but it's actually taught me a new skill set to hyper focus into the very little that I have, and learning how to develop that into something really entertaining and meaningful for the crowd. I don't know that I could tell you that I had that skill set 3 years ago. I do now, though.
It's definitely showing. I believe someone said maximize your minutes, and you're certainly doing that with anything you're doing on television. Before we wrap this up, though, what part of your book, Life is Fighting, do you think will surprise most fans? Like when they read this, you're like, I did not know this.
Oh, um, ooh, I maybe my involuntary philosophical nature on observing things in a bigger picture rather than getting tunnel vision on things. I know a lot of people are going to hear that go, I don't know what the fuck he just said, but like to attach a context, I don't necessarily think, I don't think I grew up an angry person. I don't even think I'm an angry person. A lot of people have told me that they think that I'm an angry person. Like when people would say that to me, I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm laughing all the time, joking around about stuff. But there was an underlying thing that people will read about that I was going through in the book, and it was unidentified, and I'm not sure. I wasn't sure what it was, but it was there. Learning how to deal with that and what to do with that in order to proceed forward, grow and develop as a human being and like an accountable man. I think that whole aspect of that will be the most surprising. I think that will be the most surprising. There will be stories that will shock people.
Oh yes.
When I tried to pull the guy out of the car through his window and he had a seatbelt on and I ripped a piece of his head off. Like I'm sure that'll probably surprise people. Fran's Diner, what happened at Fran's, I'm sure will surprise people.
I don't want to ruin it, but the guy who is you described him as the Penguin from Batman Returns.
Yes.
That chapter, again, I don't want to spoil anything because this book is so damn good. I don't want to ruin like the movie, but there are scenes in this book. There's chapters where I said, "I'm sorry, what happened here?" And I got to turn the next page and continue the story.
Yeah, he's saying he was going to send my check in the mail and he didn't have my address. Like, do I want to give this guy my address?
I was like, did he want to? Did he give it to him?
I don't know how bad I want that money.
Yeah, there was amazing stories inside this book, and like I said, I have read so many wrestling books over the years, but this one, it just spoke to me differently. I think because you're saying people look at you as maybe as an angry person, but in the book, it feels like the whole time in this book, at least for me, it felt like you were trying to figure out how to take these emotions of yours and put them somewhere that needed to go, versus bottling them up and let them explode one day.
Yes. Yes. And that is so common amongst people, man. It's common. We're always being told how to be, what to say, what to think, how to compose yourself in this situation. A lot of times people don't even get a chance to know what they're actually like because they're having to fit themselves into this avatar to go outside, whether it's personally or professionally. And it feels like, at least for me, it felt like I was suffocating for a long time. And once I began to identify that problem that I had, and I began to talk to other people about it, it's like, oh yeah, I feel like that all the time. It's like, what? What? And then you realize it's like everyone is kind of just doing that in their own ways all the time. And I think that's why authenticity is probably the greatest currency right now. In my opinion, I feel like strangers all over the world can connect just on authenticity, having completely different lives and backgrounds and beliefs. I know we're going to wrap soon, but I want to tell you this because it just person to person, what I mean by this. So I'm very fortunate to be able to travel off the continent for work. Dude, like I was a kid who grew up just thinking of the world as I was told it was through the television, like most people, innocently. I had no reason to challenge anything that I was watching growing up about the way people were telling me the world was going to be. Then I grow up and I start traveling the world, and I come to find it's very different from the way everyone was telling me it was on TV or in books or on the internet. People are not the way that they have been described to me through news and interviews and what have you. I don't even want to target a specific thing. But I go when I travel, anytime I go to a new country, I make a conscious effort to talk to at least 10 strangers. And most of the time, I don't want them to know what I'm doing for a living because then the conversation becomes about that. Usually people will ask me, hey, what do you do for a living? That'll come up in the conversation with the 10 strangers from different countries. I usually tell them I work in television. I don't tell them anything beyond that. I don't want to totally lie to them,
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell them I'm a stripper. Sometimes but
well, you wear nothing out there, so I guess technically, you're getting close.
yeah, exactly. I'm in my underwear. Come on.
Yeah.
But I will talk to strangers, and most people I talk to from all different countries in the world. And I don't even want to tell people what countries. I'm just going to say all different countries, and you can fill in the blanks. Most people just want to get along, just want to have a job that allows them to get by and get out of debt. Most people are moderately religious, if religious at all, and are not trying to push some sort of belief system on you and start a fight. Everybody really, actually, all over the world, people I meet, just want to coexist and get along and don't give a shit about whether you agree with them or not. They really just want to get along. And that, I think, being able to discover that as a human being, not a wrestler, not Kevin, not Kross, just as a person, knowing that the rest of the world has people like that out there, and we don't have to have anything in common, and we can connect just based on an authentic conversation, has been the biggest life and self-discovery for me that I have ever found out of anything. And ironically, it came through pro wrestling. I would not have been able to go over there had I not pursued this, which is what I wanted to do since I was a kid. So I just wanted to share that with you and anyone who's listening. Like, it's the truth.
No, I think people who maybe never even watch wrestling today are going to enjoy this conversation with you. But I think because the way you spoke, I've seen other interviews you've done, and it's very, remember this time you did this? Hey, remember the time you did that? I feel like this conversation was about your inner peace that you have found over the years. And I feel like now is a perfect time, again, as we're talking about it. We are talking about your book, Life is Fighting, but in reality, this conversation, I think, is going to help a lot of people who realize that this feeling of drowning that some people have, and you're barely breathing above water, a lot of people have that feeling.
Yeah, big time. And there's ways around it. There's ways around it. And I hope the book will at least, man, I'm not going to sell snake oil, but I feel like the book itself could, I think it could open the door, or at least make people conscious of this thing that they have going on, so they can actually get a little bit closer to it, approach it, and work on it.
Well, again, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Again, I read your book, Life is Fighting. Pre-order now. He's going on a book tour. Get in line, meet him, tell him how much you love him, tell him how much you hate him. Tell him that you want to break his leg with a pipe. Do that if you want. But Karrion Kross, thank you so much for being here on Tank Out Media. I'm Steve Fall. Have a wonderful day. Buy the book, or he's going to break your leg. Bye.